Welcome to People, Power, and Politics. Hard talk, riveting interviews, community updates, in-depth analysis. That's People, Power, and Politics. We tell it to you as it is. No holds barred. You are the people, you have the power. We bring you the politics. To listen to our show, be a guest, or to advertise, visit www.pppradio.nyc. That's www.pppradio.nyc.
Breaking silence, changing the culture of rape and sexual assault. Sexual assault remains a deeply entrenched issue, disproportionately affecting women and marginalized communities. Joining us today to discuss this critical issue is Yvonne O'Neill, a member of the Episcopal Diocese of New York Task Force on Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. Welcome, so good to have you here with us.
Thank you. It's good to be here with you today.
It's a pleasure. So let's talk about this issue. 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, November 25th to December the 10th. Can you talk about this campaign, provide an overview and its significance?
Yes. So the 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence is an international campaign dedicated to eliminating violence against women. It started actually about 32 years ago when a group of feminists got together because there's so much rampant violence against women. And actually one of the catalysts for that was a massacre that took place in Montreal, Canada, on a campus when a lot of the women were murdered. And actually, besides the 16 Days of Activism, there's also a campaign that started in Canada called the White Ribbon Campaign, and that is to get men involved in the issue of ending gender-based violence. But so the 16 Days of Activism is actually headquartered at Rutgers University, where it all started. And it's also a big push at the United Nations because UN Women, which is the arm at the United Nations that look at women's issues, realizes that violence against women is a very, very big topic. And it's something that affects women everywhere. And not just women, but also girls. There is an incessant violence everywhere that you look. So one of the things that they're trying to do with this campaign is to bring awareness to it. And the reason that the 16 days, let me tell you, so it begins on November 25th, which is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and ends on December 10th, which is International Human Rights Day. And so during these 16 days, women around the world do lots of events to highlight the fact that there is a lot of violence, gender-based violence in the world, and trying to stop it. And one of the things that there's a color associated with the 16 days, and that is the color orange. So for instance, next week, if you look around New York, you'll probably see that that City Hall will be lit up in orange, the Empire State Building and other iconic buildings in New York and around the world will be lit up in orange. As a matter of fact, 5 years ago, I was in London on the 25th of November, and I joined some friends of mine at Marble Arch, which was lit up in orange. And we were giving out literature to people as they passed and talking to them about what we were doing. This was by Zonta International, an organization that works with women to empower women around the world. And so it was a very interesting experience to be in London for this event outside of New York. So basically, that's what it is. So orange, and the reason for orange is that it's a bright color. Mm-hmm. So we're looking towards a brighter future. Orange gives us that hope that we will have a brighter future. But I can tell you that during the pandemic, during the COVID pandemic, what we saw, there was really an increase in violence against women because people
were trapped at home.
Yeah, were trapped at home, and there you were with your perpetrator, 24/7, and there was a big increase in the violence against women. And usually every year the campaign itself has a theme, and this year the theme is femicide. So that, which is a big topic because women are being killed constantly by their intimate partners. So that's what the theme is this year. But of course, what we're doing at the at the Task Force on Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault is we go on a different track because I think about what I want to be doing during the 16 days before they announce what their theme is. So this year I thought that looking at the rape culture, it's so ingrained in our society that I thought that this was something that we really needed to talk about. And so that is what our topic is.
Okay. And talking about your topic, you have an event coming up, right? Because you do an event every year. Let's talk about that. What are some of the topics that you're going to be discussed? The speakers?
Yes. So our webinar takes place on December 5th, starts at 7 p.m. And you can, there's a link to register, and that link can be found on the Diocese of New York website, and that is www.dioceseny.org, dioceseny.org, for to be able to register. So this webinar, as you mentioned, is called "Breaking Silence: Changing the Culture of Rape and Sexual Assault." I found out that the Reverend Dr. Danielle Tumino Hansen, who is an Episcopal priest as well as a professor at Emory University at the Candler School of Theology, had written a book earlier this year called Speaking of Rape. And so I got in touch with her and I said, I would like to have this webinar and I'd like you to be a part of it. And she said, yes. So she will be our lead discussant during this webinar. And joining her will be Dr. Linda Martin Alcoff, who is a philosopher and professor at Hunter College. And she has also written a book talking about rape and resistance. So I'm interested to hear what she has to say as a philosopher. And then we have from Thistle Farms in Nashville, Tennessee, we have Amanda Cleland, who is an author and activist. And Thistle Farms is an organization that helps women who have been trafficked, who have been in prostitution, who have been assaulted in domestic violence, and they make products. But they also, help the women, but they make products that they sell, so they have income generated in that. And then last but not least, we have a wonderful man on the panel. His name is Ted Bunch, and he is a co-founder of A Call to Men, a well-known organization here in New York, and which has, an international following, actually. So these four people are going to be in conversation. And specifically, I did not have a moderator per se, because everybody says, who's the moderator? Who's the moderator? So I am not the moderator. I will introduce the panel, but I didn't want a moderator. I just wanted them to sit and be in conversation. And Danielle Tumino Hansen will be the lead conversant. So in effect, she's the moderator. But, a moderator usually does not interject themselves into the conversation. They just introduce people. But of course, I wanted her in the conversation. I didn't just want her to be a moderator on the side. So she is the lead discussant in this. And they will be talking about many, many issues around this culture of rape that we have and the incessant sexual assaults, root causes, what can be done, how can, why do we have such a tremendous amount of violence against women
And girls.
and girls? Yes. So from my perspective, I feel that we live in a very entrenched patriarchal society. And that is one of the problems. And of course, the misogyny that's out there, and it compounds the situation. Men seem to think that they own women's bodies and can do whatever they want. And we need to stop that idea. A few years ago at the United Nations, we were talking about this issue. And I said that one of the things that needed to be done was that the women, the mothers, needed to socialize their children equally. Because I noticed that in a lot of societies, boys are taught to be aggressive towards women, to girls and women, and women and girls are supposed to be submissive. And so the girls are taught to be submissive, the boys are taught to be aggressive. We have to stop that. And we need to socialize our children equally. And I think that that would help. But of course, I might be thinking, it might not be as simple as that, but I think that that is one of the things that we could really address this, because, the social norms are what actually help to perpetuate this incessant.
It starts in the home. There's no doubt about it.
Exactly.
It starts in the home.
Exactly. It starts in the home. And of course, out there, the men. So, for instance, one of the things I learned, and there's so many things that happen to women and girls around the world, that in Tanzania, which is a country that I have visited, and I love it. There are some parts of Tanzania where when the girl reaches puberty and starts to develop a breast, what they do is they take and they iron the breast. It's very painful. And they iron the breast so she's not attractive to men and boys. I mean, instead of having a girl go through such pain and torture, why not teach the boys to respect the girl's body? And that's what we're not thinking about.
My gosh.
Yes, I was shocked. You're shocked? I was shocked. I was shocked. And it's not very much known, but believe me, I was at I've heard it more than once, but then I went to an event and a woman from Tanzania was talking about it, and she's been fighting against it.
Oh, wow. So, you mentioned earlier about men getting involved, and you have a speaker, a male speaker. What is your expectation from that? And I do believe we should have the men involved because, they are part of the problem. They should be part of the solution as well.
Well, I'm actually very happy to have Ted Bunch as a speaker, because his organization, A Call to Men, that's what they do. They educate the men to be responsible, to be respectful. And again, also, I feel that when we have these webinars, it's important to have both men and women on the panels, so that this is not, quote unquote, a woman's issue, a woman's problem, because it's an issue for everyone. It's because, we talk about gender-based violence, but remember, and most of the assaults are men against women, but women do assault men. And as a matter of fact, one time I brought that up and I said we should be looking at both. And, I got knocked down on that issue. But I went to an event at Harlem Hospital a few years ago where they were talking about violence. And there was a man who, an architect, as a matter of fact, well-educated. And he was telling his story about how his wife would beat him and would assault him. And he didn't want to retaliate. So she sees that as a weakness in him and just continued to batter him. And he had nowhere to turn, because if he went and said to somebody, my wife beats me, oh my God, they're going to laugh at him. Like, what's wrong with you? So it goes both ways, even though most of it is against women. And again, also, there is a lot of violence against children. And and it doesn't have to be sexual violence, any kind of violence, because violence is not necessarily physical. It can be emotional, and emotional violence, just witnessing your father batter your mother, your father kill your mother, is something that's very traumatic. And the children that witness these things in adulthood, they are not able to get over it. Even with therapy, they are unable to get over it. And they have a very difficult time being, happy, well-adjusted adults. And that is a problem and a situation that I find that our society is not looking at sufficiently. I must say that the church is not looking at it sufficiently. And it's time that we do so, because we cannot expect to have a world of well-functioning adults when there's so much violence against our children.
It has to be a collective effort, from the home to the faith-based organizations to the community organizations as well. So I know you mentioned that you've been doing this for a few years. Are there any, highlights, success stories, or anything jarring? I know you mentioned the ironing of the breast, which I'm still shocked by, that have come out of those webinars, those events that you've been having over the years?
Mm-hmm. So this webinar, as you know, is from the Task Force on Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault of the Episcopal Diocese of New York. And besides webinars, we give training to bring awareness to our clergy as well as our lay leaders to be cognizant of that this is happening and we need to do something about it. Well, one of the things that have come out of this was back in 2022, during the General Convention of the Episcopal Church, because one of the things that I learned in 2021, actually, so that therefore I wrote a resolution in 2022, was that in Fiji, they have a Sunday, the first Sunday during the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, they have a Sunday they call Break the Silence Sunday, where they dedicate that to highlighting the fact of the tremendous violence, gender-based violence that takes place in their society, and as a way to say to victims and survivors, we care about you, and so we want to bring your story to the forefront. And I thought, wow, that is wonderful. So I wrote a resolution and I could have put it in my name, but I put it in the province. So in the Episcopal Church, we have 9 provinces. New York is part of Province 2. So this resolution went in as Province 2, and it's to observe Break the Silence Sunday. But here's the kicker. We passed this resolution, and there were discussions and everybody were, this is a great idea. And that was it. So in 2022, nothing was done. So last year in 2023, we had a new bishop in New York who came out of my parish. So I've known him for many, many years, Bishop Matt Hyde. And I said to him, can we do something in the Diocese of New York? And he said, sure, why don't you prepare a toolkit? So I prepared a toolkit and we put that out, and some of the parishes observed Break the Silence Sunday. And again this year, and the toolkit was late in getting out. It didn't get out until last week. And the first Sunday is December 1st, which also happens to be the first Sunday in Advent. So yes. I don't know if folks, the priests are going to want to talk about this subject during the 16 days, on the first Sunday of Advent. But here's the thing. In this toolkit, I actually had a special liturgy written for the Diocese of New York by a dear friend of mine in the Church of England, the Reverend Dr. Carrie Pemberton Ford. Mm-hmm. And it's I'm very proud of the fact that we have something original in the toolkit, as well as prayers, collect links to prayers from other parts of the Anglican Communion. And I think that this is going to take off. So following that, we just had on General Convention this year, and I wrote what is called a memorial, which is a letter to General Convention. So resolutions are voted on. A memorial is a letter that you write something, that you want the church to consider, but there needs to be no vote. So I did that memorial, and it's in the toolkit that we have. And I started out saying that, we need to really address the profound impact of sexual assault and domestic violence within our communities and beyond. And I wrote, Break the Silence Sunday provides a vital opportunity for our church to bring issues of sexual violence to the forefront of our congregational dialogue. By dedicating one Sunday each year to this cause, we affirm our commitment to being a sanctuary for healing and a force against the injustices of abuse. And there's a lot more that I said, about it.
How can one access that toolkit?
I can send you. It's actually also on the website of the Diocese of New York.
So please give out the day, the time, and where persons can go to register for your seminar and access the toolkit.
Okay. So the webinar is going to take place on December 5th, mm-hmm. which I think is a Thursday. I'm not 100%. I think it's a Thursday. On December 5th at 7 p.m. and from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. So there'll be the Thursday. Okay, Thursday, December 5th. So Danielle, Linda, Amanda, and Ted will be discussing this issue of rape and sexual assault. And then we'll also have a period of questions and answers. So people, can come with questions to ask. And you can register on the diocesan website, which is www.dioceseny.org. Again, www.dioceseny.org.
So thank you so much, Ms. O'Neill. Always great to speak with you. And we've been discussing breaking silence, changing the culture of rape and sexual assault. I look forward to the event. I registered already.
I know. Thank you so very much.
You are
Thank
so
you.
welcome.
Good to be with you today.
People, power, and politics. Hard talk, riveting interviews, community updates, in-depth analysis. That's people, power, and politics. We tell it to you as it is. No holds barred. You are the people, you have the power. We bring you the politics. To listen to our show, be a guest, or to advertise, visit www.pppradio.nyc. That's www.pppradio.nyc.